Happy National Fossil Day and welcome back to our Let's Tour live stream. I am your host, Brittany Stoneberg from the Western Science Center. With me, as always, is Gabriel Santos from the Alf Museum of Paleontology.
We're still here. We're gonna do it.
Still here. We've got this. We are almost to the finish line, but more awesome museum collections to show you because we want to answer the question, what makes museum collections important? Museums are just not the exhibits that you see when you go to visit. And so we're showing the behind the scenes look at the collections that make up the backbone of museums across the country. And today, who we have with us is Lindsay Walker from NHMLA in Los Angeles, particularly from the Invertebrate Paleontology collection. Hi, Lindsay.
Hi, Gabe. Hi, Brittany.
Hi,
How you
Lindsay.
doing?
I'm good. Just in the museum today, social distancing with my mask on.
Just like all of our museum participants, we're all being very careful because of the global pandemic. So everybody's kind of taking precautions and safety measures.
For sure. So, oh,
Well, anyway, I know. So you guys got have a really cool video about your collections. So we'll go ahead and check that out, and then after that, we have a live Q&A with Lindsay. So if you have questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat, and we'll do our best to get to as many as we can.
And here we go with our tour.
Happy National Fossil Day from the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles County. I'm Lindsay Walker. I am the Collections Manager of Invertebrate Paleontology here in Los Angeles. And today I and several of my colleagues will be presenting to you some of the fossils from our collection and talking a little bit about the stories they tell. So this tour will be a little bit different than normal in order to adhere to social distancing. We can't all be here at the same day at the same time, and so this is actually going to be pre-recorded, but I will be available for the live Q&A following this presentation. With that, let's learn a little bit about the fossils in our collection.
so I'm going to start off our tour with one of my favorite parts of the collection. In the introduction, I mentioned that we only have invertebrates in this collection, and most of them are marine invertebrates, but we do have a few terrestrial arthropods in this collection. And so in this cabinet here, one of our brand new ones, as well as that one over there, we have one of the centerpieces of our fossil insect collections. And so you can see it's in this nice new cabinet. And that's because over the last 2 years or so, we spent a lot of time digitizing this collection. So this collection right in front of us is called the Shasta collection. It's collected by this man and his wife in Germany. And it's really, really beautiful. So these are insect compression fossils. These are insects that would have been living in an ancient lake environment in Germany and, been flying around the lake and died and then got buried by sediment very rapidly and became fossils. They're about 24 million years old in age, so they're latest Oligocene. And they're one of the, that one's actually still enough in. They're one of the most highly requested parts of our collection. So a lot of paleoentomologists don't actually live in the United States, so those are people who study fossil insects. But because we digitize this collection, they're actually able to look online and see pictures of these specimens. And fairly frequently, I get requests from researchers on other continents who want to see, for example, here's it's kind of hard to tell. They're very tiny. This is a fossil weevil. We also have bees. Let's see. This one's a little bigger. You can see it better. There's a bee right there, a honeybee. And I think I had up here, let's see, we have a dragonfly. So there's some fossil dragonfly wings. And so I think this is one of the most interesting parts of a collection. It's very different, and unless you come to the museum for a very special event, or if you're, happen to come to the collection for a tour, very few people get to see these. So just trying to share this with everyone. So for some scale, there's my finger. Those are actually pretty big. So moving on, we typically end our collections tour at this giant boulder at the front of the collection. And this is by far the largest specimen we have in the collection. It's actually kind of like a group of specimens. It's a huge rock full of fossils. You can see these little white flecks. Let me see if I can find a good one to show you all. There's a snail. We have down here, this is a rock embedded in the boulder that's full of trace fossils. And so, just kind of backing up a little bit, This boulder isn't just any boulder, it's actually a very special boulder because it is the official gemstone of Los Angeles County known as Maitlandite. And this fossil, or group of fossils, came to us sort of through an interesting means. So there was this individual, Manny Maitland, who worked downtown LA in the 60s and 70s, and he had been eyeing this site. He was watching them excavate underneath the Atlantic Richfield Plaza, or where the Arco Towers are now, and he saw that there were fossils coming out from underneath this building as they were digging down into the ground, and basically sort of did like a rescue mission. They were just gonna dump it. And he collected this rock, this giant rock, among many others, and had them sent to Europe to be made into goblets and pen holders and coasters, and eventually had it designated as our official gemstone. So it's actually, in terms of like its geologic age, it's, I believe, Plysosine in age, so about 5 million years old. And it represents the result of an underwater earthquake. So there would have been a giant slurry that came down when there was an earthquake nearby, and all these fossils were transported into this giant mass and ended up under the, what is now present day, Arco Tower site. Just to give you sort of a close-up of this, this is what the fossils look like when they're not mushed into the boulder. But one of the reasons I'm showing you this is, if everything goes to plan, next summer we will be opening an exhibit at the museum called Los Angeles Underwater, which will be featuring some very beautiful slabs of Maitlandite. So I just kind of wanted to give a little plug for that here. The slabs we'll be showing are, like, they'll be the polished cut versions of this. So anyway, come visit us once we reopen again next year, and you too can see the official gemstone of Los Angeles in person.
Hello, my name is Daniel Markbrider, and I'm an Assistant Collections Manager at the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles County. Right now, I'm at the museum in Expo Park, Los Angeles in our type room. These new fancy Delta cabinets you're looking at are from an Institute for Museum Library Services, or IMLS, grant. For the grant project, this collection is going to be rehoused, cataloged, and imaged to help increase access to researchers who may want to use the collection. And with the help of volunteers and interns over the past year, we've already greatly improved the state of this collection. Inside of these new cabinets is where we actually house the 14,000 type specimens here at the museum. Now, what exactly is a type specimen or type fossil? Well, when a new species is discovered by scientists, the fossils they use to describe the new species are type specimens. That's really important because they're exemplars of what taxonomists consider members of a particular species or taxa. If a future paleontologist disagrees with the features that are said to define a species, they'll likely have to go look at type specimens. So in a way, these fossils are kind of like a history of the practice of taxonomy in paleontology. Now let's go talk about some cool fossils we have here at the museum. One of our favorite specimens is the Shasta Sara Shitensei, an ammonite from the early Cretaceous seas of northern California from about 100 million years ago when dinosaurs were still roaming the rest of North America. What's so striking about Shasta, as we call it, is its shape. I think it kind of looks like a saxophone. Lindsay thinks it looks like a giant paperclip. You can reach your own conclusion. But for most of the nearly 350 million years that ammonites swam in the Earth's oceans, they had a round, coiled shell, like this ammonite over here, this giant Eupacodiscus. But right around when Shasta was alive, ammonite shells began to uncoil. What's so weird about this is that the uncoiled shells are actually less hydrodynamic than the coiled ones, meaning that they actually swam worse. So how could these ammonites have evolved, considering that ammonites need to swim to catch prey? It's still up for debate, but it's hypothesized that these ammonites must have either been drifting up and down the water column predating on planktonic organisms, or swimming close or even on the ocean floor eating slow, sessile organisms like clams. Another fossil I have here is a slab of trilobites, all from the same species, Homotellus bromodensis, that lived about 460 million years ago during the Ordovician in modern-day Oklahoma. The first thing you might ask yourself when you see this fossil is, why are there so many trilobites of the same species clustered around like this? This fossil might have recorded a trilobite breeding event, or maybe an example of mass molting when individuals all molted together, as seen in some modern-day arthropods like crabs. These kinds of fossils are really valuable to paleontologists because they say something about an organism's lifestyle and the ecology that they lived in. That's all I got for y'all, but thank you so much for watching. Now on to Sean.
Hello there, my name is Sean Wiedrich, and I'm an Assistant Collections Manager at the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles County. Today I'm in the collections in Carson, California, where we house most of our invertebrate paleontology collection. Today I'll be talking a little bit about a group of organisms that I have worked on and sort of my evolution of working here at the museum. So first of all, I want to introduce you to the topic of today, which is a muricid. It's a type of shell that lives in local waters, both intertidally and subtidally, and has a fossil record that dates back pretty far in California, even before the Miocene. Here's an example of one specimen, Topangensis, which was found in Topanga Canyon, which is locally here in the Santa Monica Mountains. Specimens from the Miocene. And it's part of our haplotype collection. Now, these shells are a very interesting group of organisms because they actually predate on other organisms. So as you can see, our large collection of Plysosine fossils has examples of some of the predatory remnants of this particular organism. Now, it has a type of enzyme that can be excreted that helps break down calcium carbonate and can help drill through the prey shell. So as an example, we have some bivalves here. You can see there's a drill hole on the top of the actual shell where a predator has drilled through. You can see an example here of a gastropod that has the same type of drill hole. Now, when I was getting my master's degree at Cal State Fullerton, I actually went through all of these cabinets and all of these drawers in order to pull all the material from this genus. And the result of that was a collection that's now housed in our taxonomic collection. And these trays were then pulled into an area where I could work on them a little bit more closely. So you can see here's some trays that have been partially curated. So a lot of effort's been put forth in cataloging these species and understanding how this particular group works. Now, this group also has an evolutionary history in other parts of the world, and right now I'm working on a Cretaceous grant as my second role at the Invertebrate Paleontology collection, and I'm tasked with identifying material from the western interior, so essentially the east coast of the United States. And what I do there, what I do for that particular grant is I find a drawer similar to this that has not yet been curated, and then I curate the collection by identifying what I can. And I'm even able to find material that is similar to the species that are found on this coast. So here's a muricid, Sargana stantoni, from the Ripley Formation. Coon Creek is the area where it's actually found, but it's from the Ripley Formation in Tennessee. And that will conclude my tour of the Invertebrate Paleontology collection.
So this is the end of the tour. It's a little bit shorter. It was a little bit shorter than what we would normally do if you were here in person, but I just want to say thank you for your time. Thanks for allowing us to show you a little bit, a slice of the collections we have here in LA. Like I said at the beginning, we have so many fossils here, just not quite enough time to show you all of it. But I hope you learned something new today, and I look forward to talking to you at the Q&A. Happy National Fossil Day!
Awesome. Thank you so much for that tour, Lindsay, and to all of your colleagues as well for showing us that amazing warehouse. Gabe and I have been there, and it's amazing.
It's really exciting. Thank you for the opportunity to share this with everyone. It's been so long since I've been able to give a tour. The last time was in February that this was, I thought, a great opportunity to show people some fossils for the first time in many months.
I'm sure. Like, we've been asking everybody, how has like the pandemic affected, your museum and like your day-to-day as a collections manager?
That's a great question. It's definitely slowed things down, that's for sure. Usually we have volunteers coming in, we have a few interns, research people coming in to do research on the collection. All of that has basically stopped. I can't even send loans unless they're hand carried, for safety reasons. So it's a little bit different. We've been making it work though. We're still making progress on things. Just the rate has like been dialed back. So we really do depend on our volunteers, and we miss them a lot. So that's been the biggest change.
All right. Do we have any questions? Oh, sorry.
and then obviously I have to wear a mask in the collection. That is a little different too.
Safety first.
All right. Do we have any questions from social media, Gabe?
Let me open it up really quick because I closed it. Okay. Here's a question. So, working in invertebrate collections, do you have to catalog every shell?
That's a really good question. So, yes, they're not all cataloged. We estimate it'll take 20 years to do that, but we don't like number each one individually. But that depends on the collection too. So some people do that. We don't. We catalog them in lots. So that means I could have like a box with 500 shells, and that gets one number, but it gets a count of 500. Our collection is so large. We have estimated about 7 million specimens. It's just completely impractical for us to number every single one and then expect to get through it all in 20 years.
Oh my God, I can't even imagine.
Oh, here's one. I think Lindsay will have a great story for this one. How do you adjust collection space after you are full?
After full. So we haven't actually hit the full mark yet. So our facility is so large that if we really had to, we could go vertically. So right now our collections are double stacked. They could go triple, depending on what's earthquake sound. We try to condense things as much as possible though. But that's, I think, like a chronic problem and question that collections deal with all the time. There's always more stuff coming in, and space is at a premium.
Yep. I think that's it for social media for right now.
Let's see. Oh, I'm going to ask this question because I think it's great. And this is from Jared, who was in our Alf Museum live stream earlier today. Why are invertebrates the best?
Oh, Jared, I'm so glad you asked this question. What I like to tell people, I love all fossils equally, but invertebrates do have kind of an advantage in that there are so many of them. They're a little easier to collect. They're a little more, more accessible in that sense, so other people can go and collect them a little more easily. But also, they have strength in numbers. You can collect so many of them. Like we'll go out and sample like 20,000 specimens in a day, and people can do really robust statistics, for example, on sample sizes that are so large. Like it really, Austin, our curator here, will go out and collect a bucket, we'll wash it down, and that'll have tens of thousands of specimens in it. And he can do some really complex analyses on how the environment was changing because we have so many specimens in one sample. It's really incredible. But of course, they're just cool too.
Yeah. Meanwhile, us vertebrate people are like, we've got one bone. That's enough.
It's really interesting, like the difference between the invertebrate and vertebrate. Like, I've only ever worked in invertebrate collections, and it's like they're still fossils, but it's a different world, really.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, the invertebrate specimens in our museum aren't nowhere near as large as the collection as you have, but we have lots too for a lot of different of the same type of shell. And when you're trying to figure out how you organize the invertebrates versus the vertebrate specimens, you have a lot of different things to consider actually. And it's like trying to switch your brain sometimes. It's like, hey, what are we gonna do with all of these mammal bones? Like, just put them in lot. And you're like, wait, no, I didn't mean that. You can't do that.
Hold on. Yeah, I think it's particularly amazing coming from a vertebrate paleontology background. And I mean, both of our museums, the Western Science Center and the Alf Museum, we have lots of fossils. But then you go to an invertebrate collection, just like you said, you can have hundreds of thousands of fossils from the same kind of species. It's amazing.
Can you guys hear me? Just checking.
Yeah,
Yes, we can hear
you're still
you.
there. Lindsay, here's one. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, are your largest lots like tiny teeth? That would be my guess.
No, our largest lots are actually like mostly bivalves. We have like little boxes of maybe like 100 or so in them, or we have some vials with quite a lot actually. So those are our biggest vials. But having been through your collection, we don't have lots anywhere near as big as the ones you have.
It can be overwhelming.
I'm sure. Here's one. So, how do you end up working? Am I reading this right? Yeah, okay. How do you end up working in an invertebrate paleontology collection?
So it seems everyone has a different pathway to get here. My path was, not straight and narrow. I kind of did this along the way, but I did quite a few internships to kind of figure it out. And I wasn't always on the invert paleo path. I did do some internships in outreach at the beginning. I worked some summer camps at another museum for a while, and I worked in the public program section of the museum when I was in grad school. And so it really, took me a while to figure it out. But, I think the advice I would give to people is try out all the different kinds, all the different types of jobs in the museum and see what you like, what you want your day-to-day to be like. You could study geology, biology, but you can also come at it from other angles too. So I don't know. I worked in National Park, I worked at a few museums and kind of figured it out that way.
Everyone's path is different, as it seems.
There's really no right or wrong path.
No. We've said it multiple times. Both Brittany and I have very non-traditional paths in the paleontology, and pretty much a lot of the people we've spoken to today on our Let's Tour have had all different paths. Nobody has been the same, and so somehow we all wound up working for museums, which is, I think, either we figured it out or we just ended up here, but we all love it now. Mm-hmm. Most days.
I like it. It brings a lot of different perspectives, which I think is really important.
Do you have any questions, Britt?
I think that's it.
Okay. One last question here. Oh, wait, sorry. I closed it again. Why do I keep doing that?
Test, Gabe.
I know. I'm so bad at this sometimes. Okay. What is it like working in a natural history museum in the middle of a city? I guess they meant like LA, like a big city.
Okay, so this is the first very large museum I've worked at in a big city like this. I guess maybe actually second. But first I've worked in this capacity. I would say you have really the potential to reach out to your visitors and your constituents is much greater in a way. Like we get tens of thousands of visitors, because we're in such a large city. We have the potential to really reach people very locally, but in very large numbers because we're in the city. So it's really interesting. Not everybody can do that. Some people have museums kind of, more rural or remote areas. But that's definitely something that makes this institution relative to other places of work somewhat unique, is just being in a city you have a lot of people who want to see your specimens and that you can show them to. So that's kind of exciting.
That's awesome. Like I said, I love visiting whenever we can, when we could. And, it's such a cool, huge collection with so much data that a lot of people, again, we love the big fossils, we love the big showy vertebrates, but we really got to make sure we teach people the love for the invertebrate specimens. Mm-hmm. They're just as important.
Exactly. They are. And if anyone's watching and you're in LA, we do events at some of the, when the museum does do events and we're open like normal, you should come visit us because IP Invert Paleo is often there with specimens that you can see. We don't have a lot in the exhibit. We do have an exhibit opening up soon with IP specimens, but come visit us when we reopen and see some invertebrates. They're a little different than the dinos, but just as cool.
All right. I think that does it. Are you good, Britt?
We are good.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Lindsay, for joining us today and letting us stop over at the Natural History Museum and teaching us all about your really cool invertebrate specimens. So if anyone wants to learn more about NHMLA's invertebrate collection or just the museum in general, where can they go?
Oh, well, let's see. We have website online. We have social media. The museum has Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, I believe. So you should definitely check out our social media accounts. And then, of course, we're always here in Los Angeles if you want to come see us in person once we reopen. To be determined when that exactly will be. But stay tuned.
Awesome. And we'll put all those in the description below. So once again, if you like this program and want to support programs at the Alf Museum or the Western Science Center, you can find links on how to do that in the description below. And to learn more about National Fossil Day from the National Park Services, visit them at www.nps.gov. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe our YouTube channel for more stories about paleontology. Thanks, Lindsay, and we'll see you all at 4 for the Western Science Center.
Yay!
Brady's Home Museum.
Awesome.
All right, we'll
So
see all of
excited.
you soon. Bye.